When your old career gives you lemons, throw in some ice, mix in some vodka, and call it a podcast. From the Mac of All Trades studio in Fairport, and driven by Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, it's Billified, the Bill Moran podcast.
Well, hello and welcome. Thanks for getting your pot on. Thanks for telling a friend. That's how we spread the word about the pirate ship. I'm on my way to St. John Fisher University to partake in my graduate mental health program, and I am running late. I'm officially late as of right now. I was having a deep philosophical or somewhat philosophical-based conversation with my 16-year-old son, and I even said I have to leave, and it bothers me because I find this conversation so interesting, and it really, really was. But that's neither here nor there. I've been thinking a lot about the podcast lately, or maybe more than I have in the past, which I guess I hope that doesn't sound bad, but I really have been thinking about the podcast, the direction we're going, the things that are happening behind the scenes, other podcasts that are being produced or considering being produced by Bill Moran Productions, and it's a really, really, really cool thing. There's a lot happening, and there's a lot happening in my world, and it's pretty fucking awesome, I will say that. And it's pretty awesome to be alive. I went back and I was looking through some old episodes because I got access to a bunch of old raw files that I couldn't get to for a while. Again, my stupidity, I blew up a memory on a computer and had to have that all taken care of. And one of the episodes I found was when Todd Baxter and Matt Barnes, who was the chief of police for Fairport, and Todd Baxter is the sheriff of Monroe County, came to my house. Episode 4 of the podcast. So we're going over 3 years ago, these guys came in, and it was an interesting discussion. I had not met Chief Barnes at the time. After that, he was doing a thing called Copcast, a podcast, which is still available, and you can go check out some past episodes, but he has since retired as chief of police in Fairport. Yeah. So just things change, right? And as the podcast changes, things change. One thing that I think is interesting about this conversation, and it's about a half hour with Sheriff Baxter and former police chief of Fairport, Matt Barnes, is the things haven't changed. The things haven't changed idea. We're still hearing about, and maybe you are dealing with, depending on where you are, certain problems in urban locations and city locations, right? We're still hearing about that. And it's a great conversation because it's very easy for any one of us to kind of point the finger and go, well, that ain't me, you know. Where we live, where we record this podcast, you go 15 minutes in one direction and you have some of the best public schools in the country. And you go 15 minutes in the other direction and you have some of the absolute worst, and I'm not even trying to make a joke here, one of the worst public education systems. Why is that? And a lot of it has to do with just the structure of human beings and the feeling of hopelessness and what does it all fucking matter anyway, and right, and nobody's there to push me or care or show that they care, and it becomes a lot. This is an interesting conversation because Sheriff Baxter kind of points out, as I say in here, and I've said for many years, as the city goes, so go the suburbs. Sheriff Baxter agrees with that and takes the point further. And it makes me wish I had said some things during this podcast as to say, what can we do as the suburbs to prevent the city from sort of imploding on itself? What can we do? It may be as simple as going into the city and having dinner. It may be just keeping the economic engine moving. Think about those things as you listen to this throwback conversation from very beginning when the podcast was just infantile. It is Sheriff of Monroe County, Todd Baxter, and former police chief of Fairport, Matt Barnes.
I want to welcome in Sheriff Todd Baxter, the Sheriff of Monroe County, where we are, and the Chief of Police from Fairport, Matt Barnes. Now, I know Sheriff Baxter's background. Sheriff Baxter clearly loves a challenge because he stepped in and became the police chief of Greece at a really tough time, and then went down to Ogden, which is probably a little more like Mayberry, but then decided, well, that was a little not challenging enough, so now he's the Sheriff of Monroe County. But what led you to law enforcement? I don't know Matt Barnes, who's the police chief of Fairport, to kind of the path.
So I kind of always wanted to be like Todd Baxter. So
is that what it was?
Are you recording now?
Yes, I am. I am recording now. I am.
I did not realize that was on tape.
Yes. Well, it doesn't have to be. Anything can be edited out.
I say that concludes the show.
No, exactly. Thank you for joining us.
Were you a sheriff in
I
the
was
sheriff's
not.
department? No.
No, I started for the Rochester Police Department.
Okay.
Went out to the Fairport Police Department, and then through deductive logic became chief there earlier this year when Sam Farina left. Sam Farina left at the end of February, and I interviewed for the job and ended up getting it. So
How many years with RPD?
2 years with RPD altogether. I guess I'm in my 24th or 25th. I came on in 98.
Okay.
So whatever the math is
Yeah,
there.
right.
And
So, you look at things in the city, and I know certainly with Monroe County, I've always had this belief that as the city goes, so go the suburbs. And yet we have, Mayor Evans standing up and saying these kinds of things aren't happening in Pittsford, which I know the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, having lived over there, that's you serve that community, all communities, but you serve that community. Obviously, Fairport, you would back up the Fairport police. But when it comes to the city, what are the suburbs doing to sort of help and back things up? This is tragic.
There are specific things to specific people that are occurring, right? Like the violence occurring in the city. We know the 400 or 500 people that are causing this havoc, but the statement is true. As the city goes, the county of Monroe goes. What happens as far as crime or robbery patterns or even the vehicle and traffic laws. Right now a big complaint is just the way people are driving, right? And there's just a lack of enforcement in general because of some of the reforms, and it's not really fruitful sometimes to do traffic stops and write tickets so people aren't going to pay their tickets, right?
Yeah, right.
So those things pay dividends all the way across the community. It's not just Rochester's not just a silo. There's no moat around it, and we are one community. How many people go into the city every day to do business and go into the city to enjoy dinner, and how many people from the burbs, travel. This is a very transit, environment we live in. So it can't be, the one jurisdiction anymore. Those days are long gone.
Yeah. So it's, it kind of in terms of backing it up. I always think of Fairport. I grew up downstate in a town called Clinton Corners, but I went to high school in Pine Plains, which is about 90 miles outside of Manhattan, kind of rural. You had a lot of people like the Bix had a country club that he owned up there and polo grounds. So there was a real haves and have-nots. And they had their own police department. And Officer Kaus, I don't know, I guess he was the chief. He lived on Main Street right after the speed limit dropped from 55 to 35.
Right.
This is no lie, in the 80s, I watched him do it. Walk up in the drugstore and hand someone a ticket because he clocked them from his living room the night before.
That's awesome.
And he had to license
Johnny,
plate.
here's your ticket. That's good.
But I always think Fairport's the closest thing I can think to that in terms of a community, and yet it's growing and expanding in terms of more businesses are coming in there, and Packett's Landing's got more businesses and things. And, I don't know if you're seeing an increase in problems or...
So we always say crime is still against the law in Fairport.
Well, sure,
you know what I mean? So we enforce that. But it has grown exponentially. I mean, obviously, I think the majority of, the bar business in Rochester is now in Fairport on the weekend, right?
Sure.
If you don't believe that, come on out on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night in Fairport. The whole East End is in Fairport. I just had a woman in my office on Monday morning stating that there's a pop-up event this weekend, and I think it brings like 2,000 or 2,500 people on a pub crawl starting Saturday afternoon. So there's always those events. A couple weeks ago, we had a bus come in from Syracuse with a couple hundred people for a pub crawl, similar to the pop-up event that's happening this weekend.
It's great for the local economy.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is.
Right?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and for the most part, do we have an uptick in calls? Obviously, with more people and especially the environment of a bar or something like that, Maybe. Do we have the the sheer violence is 8 miles down the road in the city of Rochester? No, we do not. We'd like to believe it's somewhat from us, from what we do, but also the different people that come to Fairport. I think it attracts a certain clientele, like I said, as far as the bar crowd and stuff like that. People are out there for a good time, hopefully, the majority of them.
Yeah. What drives you kind of in terms of doing your job every day, getting out and serving the community, keeping your face out there, right?
Yeah, so I always said when I took this over and Sheriff Baxter was there and, having the guts to stand up for the guys is my big thing, and it is. And I think the last couple of years, we kind of took a butt whooping, law enforcement. Some of it warranted, but a lot of it not. So you asked me what motivates me. I guess just to try to bring back some semblance of respect to our job, in our communities and the cops that do a good job every single day.
Did you feel that loss in your community?
I would say a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Okay.
I really would.
Yeah.
I don't think any community here in metropolitan Rochester across the United States that wasn't affected.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked to hear a community to say they weren't affected,
right.
since 2012.
I always felt that the term, and correct me if I'm wrong, defund the police was a misnomer or inappropriately named. I always thought, I didn't like it because it sounded anti-police, and we need, we need laws, and we need people to enforce those laws. And I thought, what I thought people were trying to say was that should some of the money be allocated to maybe more mental health programs or something that's, more of a community-based thing. There used to be an awful lot in Rochester, and I don't know if they do it anymore, Sheriff, or not, where the police were involved with youth sports. Mm-hmm. They would coach the sports. There was an ability to say, hey, we're not the enemy, right? We see the value in you as youth of our community, and let's help and do that. And I don't know if that's happening. It seems like I'd rather, instead of defund, could we find funds to do something like that? That, to me, makes a better community and involves the police, and it's not the defund. I never liked that term. I really didn't.
It's an antagonistic term.
Yeah.
That's why it's antagonizing people that are out there sacrificing their life and trying to raise their families and do the right thing and going through hell in the last couple of years. As the chief said, some induced by ourselves in our profession, but the majority not. I mean, these are just good people out working. So if you want to reallocate the funds, if you want to say, you know what, why are the cops going to 911 calls where the kid won't get out of bed and go to school? He's 14 years old. He's a truant. We go to those calls. So I got no problem. If you want to hire a truant officer to, for your local school district and go to that call, you can call it defunding or refunding, right? But why are we going to that call? Why are we going to some of these animal control calls?
You got more important things to do, don't you?
But mental health is the big one, obviously. And with that,
huge.
We have to go to most of those calls to make sure it's safe and secure.
Yes.
Well, we can get the heck out of there as quick as possible if there's a professional right behind us that can actually help solve the problem. Because we realize we're not solving that problem. As law enforcement, we're safety and security for that problem,
right?
And we do it.
Do you feel like sometimes it raises the level a little bit of anxiety per se in a situation if all of a sudden a police officer shows up? I don't know. In that situation,
the chief was just telling the story on the way over here, and he went to a call earlier today, and the guy's obviously got some difficulties.
Yeah,
and it was a potential threat call, and by his interpersonal communication skills, he was able to de-escalate that thing right off the bat, but he was not in uniform. So, that pays dividends. These things are tools that we use, all the time. We do this. It's called triage. We do these types of calls all the time, and you can go there and just make sure it's safe and secure. And if we need to stay because the safety is going to be there the whole call, we stay with the health professional or the mental health professional. We do it with health all the time. They're called EMTs and firefighters. Yeah, sometimes we stay the whole call with them. Sometimes we say, see you later. It's all yours. But you can't have all or none. And that's what the antagonist part, they just wanted to defund the police, turn it off. First of all, you got to build the new systems if you're going to build them first. And then you can take the allocations of police officers. So I'm not offended by those conversations, but they got to be well thought out. If you want to take some of that pressure off cops and put it on some other entity, because someone's got to respond to that house. Someone's calling for service.
I've always felt like sometimes people speak without thinking, which sounds silly, right? Really? But is it not? I mean, I always thought we're lacking a critical thinking. Right. Your opinion is fine, but please understand that an opinion by definition is halfway between fact and fiction. So let's try to figure this out in an adult conversation, and we'll listen, and you'll listen, and we find a way. But that word was, I just felt like it was bad, and then you had this thing. I mean, have you felt like, and I don't know if it's since COVID or over the past couple of years that some of that almost, and I'll call it anti-police, has de-escalated, has disappeared a little bit?
Yeah.
As though people realize maybe the pendulum went a little too far. And,
absolutely. And we're seeing that response now. We're seeing people that just go out of their way to say hello, go out of their way to say thank you when they see you in uniform.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I walk every other week in the city. I walk on Jefferson Avenue. And people don't know I'm the sheriff at first. I mean, they go absolutely honking horns and all that when because they see a blue uniform walking down Jefferson Avenue. They're excited to see a cop, and then they realize you're a sheriff, and it's like a party, right? We have a great time, but people love their police officers, and that doesn't mean we can't improve. That doesn't mean the FIT team we've heard so much about for years. Bringing mental health professionals to calls.
Right. Yep.
We started that. Law enforcement asked for that years ago, saying, why are we going to all these calls? We're not designed to solve this problem here.
Yeah.
We keep on going day after day, literally. So we asked for FIT years ago and developed that with the county of Monroe. And I think we're all on the same sheet of music. We got to take emotions out of these conversations a lot.
Yeah, it's
when
hard.
there's a horrific incident occurs somewhere, everybody gets very emotional as opposed to let's think logically about this and let's fix whatever's going wrong. But you see a lot of emotions right now. We see it everywhere.
Yeah, I sometimes you have to feel like people come as though you're the parent to fix a problem that isn't. I mean that's how I see some things. Yeah. As you look at the world and you just think, holy cow. But you've done a great job of being the face of the sheriff's office and being out. And
why are you looking at me? He's got that. I spend hours.
I always said that he looks like
hours with him.
Well, you know what? I have said, and we've said this before on the radio, that he looked like he could play for the Buffalo Bills. Now, Von Miller's out for the rest of the season, and there's a lot of worry now.
Just saying,
a lot of worry. They didn't get any sacks.
I'm just saying,
he cannot play.
What do you mean he can't play?
Just what I just said.
How many times have I pushed you and a VW bug out of a sand castle?
So you guys were did you both do the Baja?
It's Matt's car.
That's your car?
Yeah, he built the car and built the whole team to go around it.
I had no idea.
And then I go and push.
Do you do all the fabricating and everything on that? The roll bars? And
I can't take the credit for that. I literally was a laborer for 6 years on that car. There was a guy by the name of Andy May that was the brains behind it. Andy's he's a very, very qualified mechanic. But
does he do welding and everything too? Because you got to put roll bars and cages in these, and
yeah, we did that. So
do you know how to weld?
Not very well,
okay,
but apparently it holds up. So
yeah.
Wow.
So we go. So one year there's a commercial going on, and we laugh about this. He rolled the car down a mountain all the time, right? And he did. He rolled the car down a mountain. The roll cage worked perfectly. We ended up on our butts. The hood of the car was facing straight up.
No injuries.
No injuries. So the next year we go back with the same car, and they do an ultrasound on the roll bars and all that, check your welds. So I'm like, they work great. The last year we rolled down a mountain. Like, Matt hit me like, shut up, man, shut up.
Let me clarify this story.
Me
and the sheriff,
we
are going down a trail, okay? It goes hard right and then immediate left up to a mountain. I don't know how.
And how fast are you going?
Not real fast at this point, maybe 40 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah, but that's a lot on those type. I mean, if you're doing a switchback type
this
turn,
is straight up.
Okay.
So he says hard left, hard left, hard left. He's screaming into the mic.
I'm not screaming.
I make a hard left, downshift, start up this mountain.
Yeah.
We get halfway up the mountain, we get into a rut, and it flips us.
Okay.
So we roll down the mountain several times. We flipped end over end over end over end.
What's going on in your head at that point?
Just get me to the bottom.
I'm thinking
the only thing I'm thinking of
die.
It's an open window car, right? So
yeah.
The most basic rule at that moment is keep your hands in the car.
Yeah.
Do not reach out the window.
Great point. You. I'm thinking of anything coming to you. Have helmets on, but no screens.
You have a 6-point harness. You just got to trust the equipment that's in that car. But let's just go back just 1 second.
So hold on, let me finish telling my
how many people drive a car at one time? I mean, how many? So if you're getting in an accident, are you blaming the passenger of the car? Or are you blaming the driver?
Well,
of
it
the
depends
car,
if the passenger's just sitting there eating Cheetos or actually being the co-pilot telling you hard left, hard left, hard left. How hard did you take the left, though?
Remember you said opinion a minute ago?
Yes, I did. What? Halfway between fact and fiction.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to edit this thing. Where's the edit button?
So we ended up flipping the car back over by the help of a Mexican team, and we went another 400 miles to our car turnover. So we made it just fine. The next year, we bring the same car. Obviously, we do like $12,000 worth of upgrades, bring it back down to Baja, Mexico. We have to get it inspected every year. Like the sheriff said, they put an ultrasound onto the cage to make sure it's the right material, right density, that your welds are good, so on and so forth. So while they're doing that, if you don't pass, you don't race. So we just came 3,000 miles across the country to get our car inspected so we can race again. And the guy is putting the ultrasound on the machine, And the sheriff intelligently looks at me and says, "This cage held up great from the roll last year."
I think I'm bragging about it, right?
Great work, Matt.
And I look at him like this, and the sheriff goes, "Oh," and then he turned around and walked away.
So you have the trailer and everything that trailers it out?
Yeah, we trailered it out this
Yeah,
year,
that's what I
Sheriff.
mean. Yeah.
3 days across country together. It was glorious.
That has to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun.
That had to be a lot of fun.
Thanks God. Thank God for Chick-fil-A.
How long is the race? How many?
So this last race, it's a different race. Matt knows it better than I, but the first two we did were loops, about 800 miles, give or take, and this one was the second longest, I think, in history. Yeah. It's a run straight down the peninsula, and it was over 1,200 miles.
1,227 miles.
Wow.
Yep, and
that's
a VW bug.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. It's a long time.
That is. Your ass has got to hurt after that.
Everything hurts.
Yeah.
You know, we're not in the car the whole time. We switch out drivers, but when you're not driving,
so these are endurance races?
Yeah, there's
different teams.
Yeah. So there's how many different classes?
About 200 to 400 cars.
But I mean, are you guys part of a team? It's you two and?
Yep, we have a couple people from San Diego, California. We have one guy from Louisiana, and the rest of the guys are from Rochester. We bring about 11 or 12 people down total.
12 guys. So then, what are you doing? Like teams of 6?
No, there's actually only 3 driving teams.
Oh, okay.
I drive, he drives, and then we have a co-driver when we're driving. Then a guy by the name of Jeff Richardson here locally, and a guy by the name of Travis DuTemple.
What made you get into this?
It was a challenge.
Where did you find out about it?
As a kid, I always wanted to do it as a kid. My nephew and I originally were going to do it together, and then his interest kind of subsided, so we continued on with it. So just a dumb idea.
No, it's fun. I love racing. Like I mean that kind of racing is something I've never experienced. But I know that you guys went down to Watkins Glen the last time we spoke.
Great experience.
How fun is that?
Oh my God!
Isn't that a blast?
Just incredible.
It's a blast.
It's incredible. And
driving that track is the best.
It's just a blessing to get on it. I mean, it's a world class.
It's a world class.
Race,
yes,
and you got to go up there in a hot rod car,
and you get guys who really know that track well. And I've been in the passenger seat more than I've been behind the wheel on that track, and it's incredible to just be a passenger in there and just watch them and how they know exactly where to go and how far to come out of the turn and when
the whole threshold part of that. And some of these people in these smaller like mini coupes are just sliding through these turns, intentionally just sliding.
Just let it go.
Yeah,
I mean, if you get up to, they call something called the bus loop at Watkins Glen International, and they put it there because guys were dying in that turn.
Right.
And the experienced drivers, they run right down the rumble strips on both sides.
It's almost like a
they go straight.
For them, right?
Yeah,
jog a little right, jog a little left.
It's insane.
I don't know how much they slow down.
They don't. They usually don't. And then I even love when you're watching like guys who are pros racing. They'll break late going into turn 1, and there's even rumble strips there and an outer lane.
Yeah,
because guys just the momentum carries them out, and then they come
turn
around.
Turn 1 is just so. It was weird because you're turning almost 90 degrees.
Yes, you are.
But then you're going downhill. And it's just a whole different
It is.
experience.
It's a nut. It's like you go, man, the design of this is incredible. And the original, if you go around the original track, it's pretty cool. There's a guy who owns, and you guys may know him, maybe not, Kevin Van Valkenburg, who has the Little Speed Shop. If you go to littlespeedshop.com, he did a documentary about the original track and does aerial shots via a drone taking people around the original track, which is outside Watkins Glen, and what downtown. That was like. Yeah, it takes you through a little bit of downtown, but up into the hills. I mean, you're talking cart paths. Yeah. Like where I grew up, it was so rural. When going back home, my mother still lives in the Rhinebeck area. You would go, it was cart paths. They're not roads. Right. And this is what we were driving in these rural towns. And that's what it's like down on the original track in Watkins Glen. I think that's awesome that you guys got to do that. What a fun experience.
We had the opportunity. His son Kevin knew a pit crew guy for a NASCAR team this year when they were coming to Watkins Glen this year for the Bud race, for the big race, the NASCAR race. We got invited to the pit. So
did you do the hot pit pass where you're down right in there?
Oh yeah, there. I mean, we're moving the tires. Right? So when the tires get thrown off the car, we're actually in the weighing.
Yeah.
I'll hold on to this for a second.
Man, those guys are like those pit crews. Yeah, they are.
Football teams, right?
Yes.
Athletes.
Yeah. And they work out together and they practice that. It's mere seconds to change these cars.
Their mindset is incredible.
Yeah.
And my son's buddy, I think he moves 3 tires during one pit stop, right? I mean, he's responsible for 3 different moving tires, and you got seconds to get all these things.
Yeah,
in the
you
right
do.
spot,
It's
right?
like rip, zip.
No room for error.
No,
room
not at all. Not at all. What's happening in terms of? I saw something on Twitter locally going back to your profession, and it was more about first responders, and that are we seeing a lack of personnel on the first responder side in terms of ambulances and things that can't get to calls in certain parts of the city. And, you know, a lot of times you'll read, and I know, again, it would be more the city, but some tragedy happens and somebody is brought by private vehicle. Yeah. And I got to think, inside a private vehicle, when you have someone who has been shot or whatever's happening, it has to be absolutely chaotic. I can't imagine anybody being able to stay focused who's not trained in the situation. Right. Yeah. Now, it happens, but are we seeing a lack of personnel and first responders, and how do we recruit and help?
Well, I see what you just asked is really two different answers. One, the people responding, or people going to the emergency room that have been shot via personal vehicles, that's a preference. I'm sure people are making it under a lot of stress and saying, you know, do I wait for an ambulance or do I just get my friend to the hospital as quick as possible? And we've seen police officers do that, right?
Yep.
Throw people in.
Yes.
The other side of that, to answer your question, is the number of first responders, you know, just recruiting in the law enforcement. You know, numbers are down. Take volunteer ambulance crews, take volunteer firefighter crews. I mean, they're all suffering right now with personnel shortages. Yeah. And some of that could be, you know, fixes in New York State law of Albany of supporting these volunteer ambulance crews with benefit packages and making them first responders, quote unquote, so they got protections and things like that. So we need to do a better job because a lot of these municipalities can't afford a full-time fire department, right? They rely on their volunteers, and they're great people, very professionally trained, but you're going to recruit this younger generation, and we all know generations change. You got to do a better job supporting these guys and gals to get them interested in these career paths or volunteer opportunities.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a shortage of first responders.
Yeah, that was where I grew up. Was all volunteer. Yeah, it was all volunteer. Yeah, and he needed it.
Yeah, and we'll take a professional. I mean, just use firefighter. Nothing against volunteers; they're wonderful human beings. A lot of them are professional firefighters.
Yes.
But
they are.
You know, where I grew up or where I was born down in Allegheny County, you just can't afford a full-time fire department. It's never going to happen on a tax base.
No, in the town, the same thing with me, and yet my grandfather was a New York City fireman. You know.
And hopefully they bring that expertise back to their volunteer organizations.
He was always down in that area. Yeah. And, you know, once he retired, he had water.
I didn't know your grandfather was a firefighter?
Yeah, he was a New York City firefighter.
That's awesome.
Yep, I have his helmet and the badge all disintegrated, the old leather badge, but I have his helmet, and that's his badge up on the wall over there. And
see the Maltese cross up
there? That was that. Yeah, he was.
That's good.
It
was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool, and it was what he loved it. Right, that was his brotherhood.
Did you get to go to the firehouse as a kid and all that stuff?
Yeah, as a little kid I did. And then I think he retired at like 55, so I was only about 5 years old then, so I didn't get to see a whole lot of that stuff. And then he worked. He was security guard at the Chrysler Building down in New York and different things like that.
It's one of my favorite buildings, by the way.
Yeah, very interesting. Gentlemen, I appreciate you coming in. I do want to you have a podcast.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really a nice thing because I did listen to the one that when it was Sergeant Matt Barnes. And before he was elevated
credit,
chief.
I got him promoted chief for that podcast.
I think so. That podcast was very,
so many comments. Wait till we go off the air.
But it's a great way for people to kind of get the inner workings, understand, hear the community, and in a way that I don't know. I guess you don't really always think of police officers or you know, or you in that role. So it's a well done podcast. It really is.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with sharing behind the badge. That's the name of it.
Yes.
And you know, who are these people wearing that badge? As the chief is, you know, but there's a person behind that badge.
Yes.
And that was the whole intent. And then we got into the people that support us.
Yep.
And one of the great ones we just had on is a gentleman by the name of Frank, works in the scrap metal business for years and years with the catalytic converter problems we're having. He got in there. He's got like a PhD in precious metals. He's educated. It was just fascinating to talk to him about what's inside that rusty old catalytic converter makes it so popular.
Yeah, that seems to have slowed down a little bit. They made it harder and harder for people to scrap them in the area.
Well, the scrap yards, the majority of the scrap yards in Monroe County are working with us.
Yeah,
with law enforcement. There's a couple that we're still prodding. But if you get that precious metal in there, you can scrap that in Syracuse. We have one family. We watched them. We actually investigated them. They scrapped Rochester. They scrapped Syracuse. They scrapped Utica. We went right down and found all their records. They're stealing in Monroe County and going all the way down to Utica. We stopped at Utica.
I knew somebody who had a car in for repair, sitting in the lot, and they were going to pick it up the next day. Catalytic converter taken. Yeah. You know, and that becomes
expensive.
That's an expensive repair.
And annoying. You got to take all the time away from your family or doctor's appointments.
Ridiculous amount of money for a catalytic converter.
It's unbelievable. Yep. Unbelievable. Yeah.
So Frank was able to describe what that precious metal, and more precious than gold, you know.
Yeah, what's in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it needs to be recycled. That's why we got to scrap these things, because that metal has to be, there's only so much in the world.
Right.
So they got to recycle that metal.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Interesting. It's Behind the Badge.
Behind the Badge.
Apple Podcasts.
You got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
wherever you
plugging
can
it.
find. Yeah, no, I saw it, and I think it's a great thing. Hey, look, I'm in the pod community now. I'm here to support.
Is that what we call this? A pod community?
Yes.
Hey, welcome to the
Welcome
pod.
to the pod.
Remember the pod community. I
Thank
think
you.
Fairport needs one, right?
Well, a pod? Yes, I think so.
Just saying.
You come here and do it.
Thank you.
I'll
very
produce
much.
it.
I appreciate that.
I'm
That's what we're
serious.
gonna do.
I would produce it.
You know what? Maybe we'll start doing that.
I say nothing on the mic. I'll
mean,
just let you
How
come
hard
in.
can it be? The sheriff's department does it. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's start one. All right, officially here. Let's announce it.
You know where we
This
can
is
do
the
it?
trailer for the
I'll
Fairport
bring the
podcast.
equipment and we'll do it from Mulconry's.
Yeah. We'll talk off there about Mulconry's. I'm soured on Mulconry's right now.
Oh, come on.
So yeah, that sounds like a good idea though. In Fairport,
Well,
we'll
we
do
could
one.
we could do one. I'd be happy to help. Seriously,
Okay, I
if
appreciate
it
that.
ever comes up.
I will.
That's
what
awesome.
would be the name of it? What do you think would be a catchy name?
Fairport's finest.
Fairport's finest.
Yeah,
right, that was quick.
I mean, that's, you put me on the spot. I'm trying to.
quick. No, that was
Behind the
good.
Badge, I like, but
was
it's
good.
already taken. So Fairport's finest, right?
Well, he took it from San Francisco police.
Oh, that's not.
So I mean,
Look,
really-
that's below the belt. I mean, that's a below the belt. I mean,
You're the only time Todd Baxter is speechless right now. Look at him. Nothing comes out of those
Now I'm
lips.
worried they have one. They got one?
Oh,
Behind the
now,
badge?
now it's a surprise. They have one.
Man, you know what? But is his nickname Barnes the Ball Buster? Or what is it?
It's Barnes. I can't drive down a mountain. This is,
Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
likewise.
Thanks much.